This is a video by Rich Ben. Today we are working on a Chevrolet Impala. This happens to be a 2009 model. And what we're doing today is we are putting in new rear brake pads. First thing we need to do is get the vehicle up in the air, support it on jack stands, and take both tires off. Next thing we want to do is take a regular screwdriver, go right into the access window here, and pry out on the caliper as much as you can go, just like that. Now next thing we're going to do is to remove both 13mm headed bolts that secure the caliper on. Okay. Now we're going to take a hooked wire and secure our caliper up to the coil spring, just like that. She's all out of the way. Now, as you can see on this job, the rotor is in bad shape, so we're going to replace the rotor. Now we need to take the pad mount out of the way here, and problem is that these bolts that secure the mount on are very tough to get off, especially here up in the salt belt. So to get our impact in there, we need to get this stabilizer bar link out of the way. So the link is held on by a 18mm nut, and we need to back it up with a 14mm open end wrench. Okay, now take that link like that. Now we'll give us space to get in there with our impact. Now the bolts that hold the caliper mount on are 13mm headed bolts. Let's snake our impact wrench up here. There's one, and we've got just enough of room. Look at that one. Okay. And there's our mount. Now the rotor is held on by one T30 headed bolt. So we need to remove that. Now, being up in the salt belt area, this rotor is going to rust on for you, which this one did. I've already removed it. Now what I did is I used my homemade scraper right here and got right in here on the hub. Scraped as much rust as I could right in that area where she likes to rust in. Then some penetrating oil in there, and of course it doesn't have any tapped holes to pull the rotor out. So what had to be done was tapping with the, more than tapping, a good smack right here on the rotor and then opposite. And what that does is it rocks the rotor, breaks the rust. See how it's rocking it? Takes about 15 minutes, and then off she'll come. Now before we put our new rotor on, we want to take a look at our parking brake lining, make sure it's okay, it's not coming apart. there should be no wear on it because the lining is only in contact with the rotor when it's stationary. So let's line up the concaved hole right here to the threaded hole that holds the rotor on. And put our bolt in. Okay. If you put your new rotor on and it's rubbing too much on the parking brake right here, you can make a little adjustment right here. And try that. We have our parking brake adjusted, and she's running free, not hitting. Next thing we need to do is mount our pads into the caliper holder right here. Now pay close attention to the stainless steel shims right here. Wire brush them, see if they look good, and if they are, you can reuse them or buy some new ones. These are very crucial right here to make sure that the pads can move in the holder. So I've got them loaded all in. We'll slide them in place. Okay, now we need to tighten those bolts. Alright, our mount's all tight. Let's take our pads, squeeze them together. Now we have to put the piston back into the bore of the caliper. All the way. So we'll get by the pads. Okay. Alright, that should fit over the pads. Yes, it does. Alright, let's set it right there. We'll put a little brake grease on our pads. Just so they won't squeak. Make sure that rubber boot is right there. Now for our pins, and hopefully you could kept track of them. I marked the heads with a little crayon. The red is up, so that is the pin that goes up, and of course more grease on our pins. There we go. Alright, let's tighten those up. Now don't forget to put the stabilizer bar back in. Okay, tighten that up. Okay, everything's all back together on this side. So all we have to do is do the same thing to the other side, and that's it. That's all there is to doing a rear disc brake pad replacement on your Chevy Impala.